Are you stuck in the same old routine at work? Do you find yourself hitting a creative wall, unable to see beyond your current perspective? It's time to break free and unlock the power of fresh perspectives. David Gouthro here with Discover Fresh Perspectives, and I'm here by myself again. But don't feel badly for me. It's because it's early Sunday morning and no one else is around to chat with me. So today, I want to talk a little bit about the power of asking the question, why not, rather than why. So often when an opportunity arises, and we can ask ourselves the question, so why should I do this? Why should I engage? And it puts us into a pretty heady kind of space, trying to figure out if we should engage or not. And I have found a better question that leads me to way better experiences, and certainly new ones and unique ones, is the question, why not? So here's the story. Backstory, first of all. I had someone who was working with me a number of years ago, and she was taking a course in new media at Capilano University and had to do a website. So I said, okay, how about if you do a website for a non-existent organization? Let's make one up. How about the Vancouver Noseflute Ensemble? I actually use noseflutes in my work as a metaphor for growing personally or organizationally, that you'll grow faster if you're willing to blow it. So it was just kind of a fun thing. So how about making up this organization, the Vancouver Noseflute Ensemble? So she went away, did a website, recorded a few videos of me playing the nose flute, and I thought nothing of it. And then about 5 years later, maybe even longer, 7 years later, I got a call from a Swedish-sounding gentleman who said that he was with a marketing company in Stockholm, Sweden, and they were putting together a proposal to launch a new nasal spray, and were wondering if the Vancouver Noseflute Ensemble would like to work with them on this. So I would like to reiterate, there is no such thing as the Vancouver Noseflute Ensemble. So I said, sure, thinking it was a joke. However, a few weeks later, I got a call back from this gentleman. Said, we got the engagement. Our idea is to have the Vancouver Noseflute Ensemble help to launch the Swedish Noseflute Orchestra in Sweden, promoted by and supported by this company that produces a new nasal spray, which is actually quite brilliant, because if you've ever played the nose flute, and if you haven't, you should definitely try it. If you've tried to play when you're congested, it just doesn't work. So I thought, okay, I guess this isn't a joke. I said, so can you come over to Sweden and show us the nose flute? So I said, sure, I can do that. And I hopped on a plane and went over to Europe and showed the management team of this pharmaceutical company the nose flute. Well, they loved it. Kind of hard to tell. The Swedes aren't particularly effusive, but they did have a few raised eyebrows and slight smiles on their faces that meant they loved it. So again, I thought nothing of it, headed back to Canada. And then in the summer, that was probably, about 6 months later, I got another call from the same marketing person with this marketing firm in Stockholm. He said, you know what? We would like to send a 6-person crew over to film the Vancouver Noseflute Ensemble. It still doesn't exist. And I said, look, I could fly to Europe and save you a whole lot of time and money. And they said, no, you do not understand. Our launch idea is to have the Vancouver Noseflute Ensemble help to launch the Swedish Noseflute Orchestra. So for that, of course, we need to be filming it in Vancouver. So I reluctantly said, okay, why not? And a few days later, the day after we got back from vacation, 6 Swedes landed on our doorstep. And the next day, for 12 hours, filmed me playing the nose flute in places I would never play it. They'd have me driving through Stanley Park, rush hour traffic, 4 lanes merging into one. They had a van in front of me with a cameraman in the back doors open like the tail gunner to bomber, saying, get closer, get closer. I've got a remote mic on, and I'm trying to drive a standard car, playing the nose flute in rush hour traffic. Now, this was a little bit before the new legislation on distracted driving came in, but it was bizarre. At the end of each clip, I had to say, snore.nu, it's for you. And snore.nu stood for Swedish Noseflute Orchestra.nu. That was the URL. And it would send people to the snore.nu website where they could send in the equivalent of a couple of dollars to get a nose flute that was printed with the name of the nasal spray on it. Well, okay, that was all well and good. I thought that was the last I'd hear from these folks. I did say, if there's anything else I can do, I'd be happy to help out. So what they ended up doing was sending me a business class ticket and 2 economy class tickets for me, my wife, and my daughter to fly over to Sweden for the official launch of the product in the fall, because I guess people don't get sick in Sweden in the spring. So yes, my wife thoroughly enjoyed the business class seat on the way over. And my daughter and I sat in the back. She did not sleep a wink because you never know when you're going to miss a party on the plane. And she was 7 at the time. So you can imagine how miserable she was by the time we flew into Heathrow and then on to Stockholm. However, we came out into the middle of the Stockholm airport, dead tired. There were 5 members of the Swedish Noseflute Orchestra, bright yellow Swedish Noseflute Orchestra jackets on, music stands in front of them playing "O Canada" on noseflute. You could not make this up. And this all came from me just saying, why not? Well, the adventure continued. At this particular time, there were over 50,000 members of the Swedish Noseflute Orchestra, people that had sent in the equivalent of a couple of dollars to get their own noseflute. One of the events was being held in the train station, the Stockholm train station, which is huge. And in that train station, there's a recording studio that's cantilevered over the station. And it's all being shown on a jumbotron, a huge screen. So they'd sent out on the website, David is going to be in town. Bring your nose flutes down to the train station at such and such a time. So as I was preparing in the green room, getting ready for this interview, there were 30 members of the Swedish Noseflute Orchestra down below in the train station playing ABBA tunes on noseflute. You could not do anything more Swedish than that. It was just hilarious. Now, apparently, as I walked across the screen, my wife and daughter were down below with the other members of the Swedish Noseflute Orchestra, and they overheard these little kids saying, look, it's David. Do you think he'd sign our nose flute? Like for 6 weeks, I was on 3 commercials for 6 weeks on national TV in Sweden. Nobody knows me in Canada, but in Sweden for a few moments, I was a pretty big thing. So my wife said, yes, I think we've got some connections. We can do that. So after the show, I came down and was signing nose flutes for these little kids. All of this, it wasn't a money-making thing. It was just an experience that all came from saying, why not? Of course, there's many more tales that have arisen from this and many more adventures of the nose flute. But for today, the main point is that, maybe sometimes it's better and faster to say why not rather than overthinking it and trying to come up with a reason why. It'll lead to whole new unexpected adventures. Discover fresh perspectives. Why don't you try one of those today? Subscribe now, because on Fresh Perspectives, every episode is an opportunity to explore new horizons and redefine what's achievable.